Surely, Piers, the opposition does want offshore processing. That opportunity was there. It now would appear to be lost. That can't be a tactical victory either.
Well, I think that the Nauru option, as Julie Bishop said, they've always had a policy that worked. They haven't changed. They haven't deviated from that position. I don't think that the onus can be switched back to the opposition. You have to examine everything that Julia Gillard has said on this issue, Chris. And what she said was that that the government would only support offshore processing in nations which were signatories to the convention. Malaysia is clearly not a signatory to that convention. So, again, she was making policy on the run and shifting the goalposts, to mix all these metaphors. But there is no coherence in this. But I think that the point that was being made earlier was very valid. What really strikes me as a follower of this is who devised the strategy to put up a so-called tactical victory in terms of the carbon tax legislation this week, and follow it with what was always going to be a no-brainer and a loser in the migration amendments.
And people were blaming the Prime Minister.
So you wind up at the end of the week, though, you could have gone out, if you'd reversed the order, you could have said, well, we went down on the migration bill, we were always going to go down on that in the Senate.
Yeah. But the worst of it is that at the end of the 6 weeks now since the High Court's decision, both sides of Parliament have been ramping up this notion that it was absolutely necessary, almost for the survival of Australia, that we have offshore processing, to wildly exaggerate, once again, what is actually going on in this country. Do you know, this year, the boat arrivals have been running at half the rate of last year. That was in the months before the Malaysia solution was announced, half the rate. The months after the Malaysia solution was announced, half the rate. Since the Malaysia solution was knocked back by the High Court, half the rate. The notion that we are inevitably opening ourselves to a mighty flood of asylum seekers is false.
Well, I think you'll be proved wrong on this, David.
I'm not predicting the numbers that will come, but it is essential to understand that the prediction of the inevitable invasion and the metaphors of the last few weeks have ludicrously reached the level of invasion. There has been talk of sovereignty.
David, I don't think you're factoring in the seasonal issues as well.
Half. Piers, half.
But the numbers aside, we are never going to have the numbers that they have in Europe. We know that. In Europe, they come onshore and they live in the community and they work in the community, and ask anyone in London, they welcome the Polish plumbers. Let's face it, they do.
Hold on. Look what Andrew Metcalfe said before the Senate. Look what Andrew Metcalfe... And what did he say about the situation in Europe? Well, he said it was absolutely chaotic, and he predicted that if we had onshore processing in Australia, the same situation would apply here.
Well, he was talking about over a very vast expanse of time. He was talking about the complete breakdown of border control, which we don't have, Piers.
In a way, we're chuckling at this notion of people being allowed to work in the community and sending them out to bush areas where there's not enough jobs. I don't know why we chuckle at that. There's so many thousands of people coming in on 457 visas at the moment. They're yanking people in from overseas.